the 757 Spy flight deck. It is a chilly and a rainy morning here at Spy HQ, and there was a question over in the Spy Flight live stream yesterday, and I thought this would make a really good video. Hello, I'm Dave. I do the Spy Flights over on Twitch TV, and boy, do we have an exciting new airplane in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's the PMDG 737, and that's got an awful lot of people asking, how do I get this thing on something like Vatsim? This is a pretty pro airplane. How do I kind of level up my flight planning and stuff? That's what this thing is going to be pretty much be all about. Now, normally when I do these kinds of videos, I've got all the flight planning done and it's all set and ready to go. Today, all I've done is just pre-launch a few apps. We're going to go through the whole thing, and let's go ahead and get started. This is the PMDG 737. It is an airplane that really takes Microsoft Flight Simulator to a whole new level. And so doing your flight planning at a whole new level is probably what's got your attention right now. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about picking your route, ADAs, finding an active runway, finding a gate, launching the sim, doing a pro flight plan, or as pro as you could be in a simulated world, downloading the flight plan, filing it, assembling your stack of charts, and joining the fun. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this. Now, normally I would have already gone and I wouldn't have even loaded the airplane at this point in time, but I did preload just a few things here. So this is the time for you to stop and start some stuff, okay? Don't do it quite yet. We got a few things to look at, but there'll be a few moments that you need to pause to catch up, and that's okay. That's the beauty of YouTube, right? So the first thing that we talk about is planning your route, and to do this, we're going to go ahead and use several tools. The first thing to do is you wake up in the morning, it's early, and you say, I want to do a route. I want to do a Vatsim flight. Where am I going to go? Well, right now it's pretty early here, so there's no ATC in the United States. What's going on over in, wait a minute. Look at this. There's ATC all over the place here in the East. Look at that. It's all over Japan. Looks like there's some ATC in China. There's ATC all over. There's Papua New Guinea, north of Australia. So there's ATC here. Looks like we've got Gibraltar. Morocco is up. So one of your first stops in figuring out where do you want to fly today, unless you already know, might be SimAware. Oh, and by the way, there's links for everything that I'm showing you in the description. So there is ATC, all sorts of interesting choices, but maybe this isn't your cup of tea. Maybe you'd really rather do something else. So like your hometown flight, especially if you're learning a new airplane, I really like to suggest that you do a hometown flight. So your next choice might be something like FlightAware. You could also use Flight Radar 24. The reason I have FlightAware is that's the first thing I signed up for. Okay, so that's why I don't use the other one, but they're both really good. And so the hometown flight for me is United Flight 684 to the big city of Denver. The thing I like about this is it gives me a departure gate, it gives me an arrival gate, it gives me a schedule to keep, and you might think, schedule to keep, what do I want to do that for? There's a very big Vatsim event. In fact, there's several. One is called Cross the Pond, the other's Cross the Land, and you actually have to follow your flight schedule. So you actually have a scheduled departure time, like this one, scheduled to depart at 7:06 a.m. Let's see, what time is it here? It's 6:14 local time here, so I've got less than an hour to departure time. And by hitting a departure time like that, that's good training for you to be able to hit your slot or departure time on something like Cross the Pond or Cross the Land. So, hey, we found our flight today, so we know a little bit about that. We're going to be on Vatsim, and let's say there was ATC up and everything. Well, one of the things is you want your flight planner to set up a flight plan that somewhat resembles what the controllers are doing. How do you know? Well, the first thing that I like to do is go over to SimAware, and if there's some ATC, where is there some ATC? Okay, here's something at Morocco. So Morocco has an ADAS up, and you can see up there's their ADAS, and they are departing on runway 35. There we go. Now we know what runway to use. So that's one way to do that. Now you notice here the ADAS just pops up. I have no way to copy and paste that into my notes. So I have to sit there and write it down on paper. I'm not a huge fan of writing stuff down on paper. There was a time here in the flight sim world that I was absolutely killing forests of trees with all of the paper that I was using. So right now I've kind of gone to what I call my little notepad right here. And this is where I will cut and paste things. And the way that I cut and paste stuff is I use something called, let's see, it's called Vatsim. I thought I pre-started that. Okay, we got to wait for Vatsim for a second here. Because Vatsim is a place where you can go and you can look at an ADIS and you can copy and paste it. And I think that that's a really helpful thing to do. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And here is Vatsim. Yes, there's a link in the description below. And you're going to get really sick of hearing me say that, aren't you? So we do have an ADIS up here, GMMM. Okay, go to the search bar, GMMM, and hit enter. Now hit airports. And clearly I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, let's see. Is it GMMM? Oh, it's GMMN. It's early, okay? It's early. Casablanca, there we go. Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world. Yeah, you got that. Anyway, so you see here when I clicked on the ADIS, you can go and highlight this, and you can go Control-C, grab your notes, and Control-V. We now have information kilo, and it's all written down. This is a really nice little time saver, especially when you're going to be on Vatsim and a busy world. I really wish that there were other ways to copy and paste. Now, there's some airplanes like the AnyBuild's A300 and A310. They actually have a little bit of a printer, a simulated printer in your simulated cockpit, and you can actually print this out and put it on a little piece of paper, and it sticks to your control console, to your flight instrument board. I think that that's really kind of a cool thing to do. And so if I were flying one of those airplanes, that's another option. But now we know that they are going to be doing departing runway 35 left. Okay, we're not going to use this, but this is just my example. What if you want to do a real-world flight and there's no ATC? Well, the other way that you could do that is you can go and if it's in the United States, you can come on over here to another website that I like, and that's the FAA Digital ADIS. And so let's say we were going into Denver or a bigger airport. So there is KDEN. So you could look over here at Denver and say, here is the departure. Denver is departing runway 8 and 17 left and right. Very cool. Hey, we're going to be arriving in Denver. What do you say we get the arrival ADIS for Denver right now? And this is real world. Just copy. And so this is actually something I need. So for this case, I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to copy over this because this is something I'm going to need a little bit later on. Okay, so that's good. What if it's not a big airport? Well, you could go back to this little thing right here, and you could go and just, instead of looking at this flight, you could come over here, and you could, I'm going to open that link in a new tab, and you can come and see what the airplanes are actually doing here. Looks like Billings is departing to the east here. Oh, so it's going to be 10 left is going to be our departure runway. That's a way to figure out what your departure runway is. So we now know that coming into departure is going to be 10 left is our departure runway. And coming into Denver, visual 16 right, 16 left. So we're going to probably go for an arrival runway of 16 left. Okay, now we've got a pretty good idea. We've been able to put on our Sherlock Holmes hat and figure out what it is that they're doing. Another way to figure this sort of thing out is to go to another website I really like, and this is called METAR TAF. Link in the description. Yeah, you've heard that. Okay, so let's do KBIL, Billings Logan, and let's go down here, and here's Billings Logan. And you can see there's the wind here. It does show that the winds are favoring the 2/8s, but you saw from the real world that they're using the 10s. That's probably because there is a really big patch of heavy rain to the west of town, and so they're taking airplanes off to the east of town. See all the little things that go into flight planning like this? But these are just some of the little clues that you can use to try and figure out what you need to start, what you need to do to fly kind of like fly like the real pilots. And that's one of the goals in Flight Sim is we want to make it as real as it gets. As real as it gets. Wow, what a cool idea. So it is raining cats and dogs here in Billing. Let's turn up the sound, and you should hear a little bit of rain pop in there. And now it's time to actually do some flight planning. Yeah, that's the next step in the process. We already know the runways. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot something. So, okay, I've gone and pre-started my sim so you didn't have to sit here and wait for me to watch my sim pre-start. So how do you know where to put your airplane? Well, first thing, big rule on Vatsim, never spawn on an active runway. But the best way to figure out where to go is to use SimAware. So let's look for a busier airport. Let's see, Denver. I think there's probably some airplanes on the ground at Denver. Is there anybody on the ground at DIA? Yeah, well, no, there's somebody that's flying. There's nobody on the ground at DIA. Okay, that was a crappy example. Let's see if we can find, where does it look like there might be some people on the ground? Let's go over to Europe. There's got to be people on the ground at Heathrow, right? Well, no. Yep. Oh, well, there's people over here. Yep, here's people at Heathrow. Okay, so let's say there's the Heathrow. So there are several gates. Okay, here's some of the concourses. So you can see where there's some empty gates here, some empty parking. Here's a Speedbird flight that's going to be going to Kennedy. Here's somebody that's going to EGPH. So we got some interesting airplanes here. But you can also see if you look. So there's the east-west runway, the north side, the south side. Okay, here's the international terminal, one of the international terminals here. The Concorde is parked down here at that hangar, but you can clearly see here, I am not going to take this gate. How do you know what gate that is? Well, you could go over here to Navigraph, and let's go EGLL, and hit enter, EGLL, and come over here to the taxi chart. Where's the airport page? So it looks like we've got an airplane. There's the big box, the skinny one, and the skinnier one. So that airplane is here at Terminal 5C. So let's see, what do we have here for Terminal 5C? There it is, and it looks like this airplane is right in the middle. And if you look carefully, it's probably so. We're not going to go to gate 555 because there's already an airplane there. Now, some airports are starting to do all this for you. They have their own simulated airport website, and it gives you live, real-time information about what airplanes are at which gates. And that's particularly helpful on Vatsim. I don't have any of those saved right now, and I don't think any of them are active, but it's getting better so you know where not to spawn. So this way you don't spawn on a runway, and you didn't spawn on top of Speedbird 175. This flight here, this one's already pushed back. So this one actually pushed back from that gate too. So now you know how it is to not spawn on top of somebody else. And so that's when you actually get to go and load in your sim. So sim's loading, and we're all ready to go. Now, my X-Plane, when I try and start up X-Plane, it does not like me to multitask, okay? Microsoft Flight Simulator seems to let you multitask. So while you're loading, you can go to the next step, and that's the actual flight plan. And we're going to go over here, and we're going to do flight planning. Now, there's the Advanced tab down here. I click this one, and that gives us a few more route specifics that we can plug in. So we're going to go and we're going to fly the Boeing 737 Model 700. I have a 200 and I have a 737-700. So there's our airplane. We're going to give ourselves a flight number, 441, 441. You know, if you wanted to be like the real pilot, you could come back over here and look at FlightAware, and this is Flight 648. You could fly the real Flight 648 if you wanted to. The only rules about flight numbers and stuff like that is you really don't want to use the flight numbers that are associated with aviation tragedies. So those are ones that are specifically blocked. You can't use those, and it makes people a little bit cranky. Okay, the current time down here, it's 12:25 Zulu. Well, this has got us departing at 12:54 Zulu. If we're going to shadow a real-world flight, this is 7:06 is pushback time. So how about if we do 13:06, 13:06 Zulu time for our departure? That's pretty good. Let's go and put our departure airport, KBIL, Logan. There's Logan and KDEN, Denver. There we go. Now, and this actually shows some real world flights that it's gone and gotten. Let's go over here and do our departure runway. We think we're going to be departing off of 10 left. Let me just make sure. 10 left. It's early in the morning. If you don't know, you can come back over here and remind me. KBIL. Hit this one. Come on over here. Hit taxi, airport. 10 left. Okay, 10 left is good. Denver arriving, 1-6 right or left. We chose, I believe, 1-6. I want 1-6 right. 1-6 right. So there we go. So now our departure runway and our arrival runway is set. SimBrief will use those, and it's going to be a little bit, it'll probably be a little more choosy for us as far as our, SIDS and stars and routing. You can plug in your own routing here, and in fact, I think one of the things that you can do at some of these websites, so I know that this is kind of haphazard, but flight planning, as far as step 1, 2, 3, you kind of do a bunch of different things at the same time. Look at this. Your route is right down here. Bill, Gates, Grins, Tofu, Flatiron 3 arrival. They are going to be going at flight level 290. You could actually copy this in, and you can put in your cruise altitude. You could put in the routing. Now, important safety tip. If you're going to fly one of the big events, like Cross the Pond, let me politely suggest that you add a good 30 to 45 minutes of taxi-out time. Just extra fuel. And maybe another 15 minutes of taxi-in time. Just add a little bit more fuel. You'll need that. Trust me. Okay, come on over to Generate Plan. Let's do it. So flight plan is generating, and the little generate the flight plan box pops up, and the green bar goes across, and we are almost done. And so our route should show up. And so look at that. It's the exact same route that is going on in the real world. 9 times out of 10, I see that usually happens. I usually take the route and I just copy and paste it into my flight notes right there. So what else can we do? Well, we're going to go ahead and fly this on Vatsim. So we need to pre-file, but we also need to get the numbers. So SimBrief, open OPF. And so that's going to open up a web page, and there's the operational flight plan. I have a file on my desktop, and where is the desktop? There it is, and it's called Active Plan, and I save it on top of that. That way I've just got one thing. I'm not deleting flight plans. My current flight plan is always on my desktop. Very, very handy. Okay, so that's good. Next thing. Now, some airplanes, you can download the actual flight plan into the simulator. I haven't set that up quite yet, and we're not going that far, so entering flight plans into the computer, into the flight management computer is not that big of a deal. Now, if this were across the pond with a whole bunch of checkpoints, okay, that's different. But for something as simple as this, it's not that big of a deal. So now we're going to go and export. You could export the flight plan. I'm not going to do that, but it is time to go and pre-file on Vatsim. Coming on over here, it's just launched another web browser, and check your call sign, United 441. It's an IFR flight plan and a 737. There is our equipment code. There is a transponder, billings, off blocks time is 1306 Zulu. That's our time, altitude 37,000 feet. We're going to Denver. Our alternate is Colorado Springs. This thing really just takes your flight plan and puts it right into the form for you. It's super convenient. Now then, you've heard me talk a little bit over on the Spy Flight about new people on Vatsim. If you are new on Vatsim, if you're just getting started, one of the things that controllers really would appreciate you is to come over here to the bottom box here. It says RMK, that's remarks. Put your clicker in there, do a little dash or something, and write in new to Vatsim. Okay? You could also do first time on Vatsim. Something like that. The controllers will like to know that sort of thing. Not because they're going to pick on you or anything like that, but what they're going to do is that says, ooh, this is somebody that's new on Vatsim. We need to give them a little more help. And unless you are flying in a Friday night ops where there's 40 other airplanes coming into Chicago at the same time, the controllers are going to want to do that, okay? So that's what you need to do first time on Vatsim. Now, guess what? Here's the thing. If you need to do this 20 times before you're starting to get confident enough to be on Vatsim, you know what? Nobody's keeping count, and you get to do that. So put that one in there and then hit File Flight Plan. I'm not filing my flight plan on this one because I'm actually not going to fly this thing. I'm actually going to go make breakfast. So that's what we've got for that. Those are all set up. And then the last thing that I do on Sim Toolkit Pro is I'm going to hit Fly Now. That way this logs the flight, and then the thing to do is come up, look over here, make sure that your airplane's on the ground. It is. And so that looks good. You can see all the rain, and oh, looks like there's a little bit of snow down by Red Lodge. And Wyoming's got some snow. Okay, so all that's good. And then usually this is about all I'm going to do with Sim Toolkit Pro. I'm going to slide it off to the side and minimize it, and it's out of the way. So the next thing that I usually do is this is what I call assemble my chart stack, my stack of charts. And so we're going to clear out all of this stuff from earlier. And I'm using Navigraph for this. There's also NDP charts from Aerosoft, and that gives you the Lido style of charts. I really like those too. But mostly for their Boeings, I'm going to stick with Jepson. Okay, so we're going to go, and from SimBrief, let's go ahead and just get our flight plan, and there it is. Now from here, we're going to go to Billings and Charts, and all I'm going to do is go and grab the ground chart. We did not get a SID going out. There is one. It's just a vectors departure that they hardly ever use. Now we're going to go to Denver. Come on in here. Let's grab the star. You can see if you've cut and pasted your flight plan like I did over here, we know that we're going to be on the Flatiron 3 departure, arrival, excuse me. So come on down here. There it is, Flatty 3. And we're going to pin that to the bottom. Now let's go to approaches. We're going for 16 left, I believe. Is this the left side or the right side? No, we want 16 right. So they usually bring you in on 16 right. Okay, so 16 right, I just pinned that. Next thing, go to your taxi charts. Go to the top. We're going to get the airport chart for Denver. Usually it says airport and airport. And then Denver's big, so we also need to go and get parking gates. And so United's the Bravo concourse, so we're going to pin that in there too. And there we go. So if you look at the bottom of all of this, you can see there's our route. So here is our Billings airport chart. And by the way, one of the other things that I do is, especially with Navigraph, and if I don't know the airport like the back of my hand, I will go ahead and I will turn on the airplane, moving map. So this shows you exactly where you are, particularly on the ground. This is really nice. If you're at an unfamiliar airport and you're in a big event, wow, does this make your life a lot easier. Okay, so I definitely use moving map there. I will also do a quick review of the star. I don't need to know everything about it. I just want to see that we're coming in on Tofu. And then if we're going to be doing the landing to the south, that's the Tichenor. So Tichenor is how we exit the star. And then this should take us right on in. There's Tichenor over there, 13,000 feet. This is going to take us over to Shred. Shred's going to set us up on the ILS for the runway. On the runway, we are going to be exiting to the left. We're probably going to want to get the Delta 5 to Whiskey Bravo. Takes us right into the Bravo concourse. Look over here at gates. There's all the gates. Which gate to choose? Here's the thing. In a big event or something like that on Vatsim, once you exit the runway and you contact ground control, the ground controller is going to say parking. I mean, there's, say parking. Where are you going? I don't know. Where are we going? So here's one thing you can do. If you're following a real world flight, look up here. What do we got up here? Gate Bravo 21. I'm going to jot that down. So that's why I have a little line here. It says gates B21. This is something. These are just the flight notes. It's a text file that I've been building for a long time. I regularly put a copy of this over on Discord. If you look at the next flight that I'm going to link to, you can get a copy of that from the description. Copy and paste it, and it works great. Bravo 1 is the departure gate. That just happens to be the one that we're at. So let's go ahead and go B1. There we go. And so when you're exiting the runway, you're doing a ton of other things, and the controller says, say parking. If you've gone and taken just a second to look at this, you can look at your notes and say, well, thank you, Mr. Controller. We're going to Bravo 21. And all of a sudden, oh, wow, this person knows what they're doing. How about that? Okay, so we're good to go there. We have our stack of charts, so we're all ready to go. Now, another little safety tip here. Let's say that you're flying into a big event in Denver, and you really can't just pick your runway or something like this. In fact, if you look at the ADAs for Denver, what are our arrival runways? Expect ILS runway, runway 16 right, 16 left, or 17 right. So they actually have 3 active runways for arrivals right now. So what I would do is, if I were in an event and everything else, I would go to my charts list, and instead of just getting 16 right, I would also go into my approaches and I would get 16 left. I would also get 17 right. And I would put all of these in my stack of charts down here. And now you can see I've got the arrival. We know what we're doing with the arrival, and no matter which runway they give me, I've got my chart already set and ready to go. So all of my arrival runways are set. And that is a really cool way of saving yourself a little bit of time in the cockpit, and that sort of levels up your game a little bit. Okay, so on our list of things to do, we've gone and assembled the charts, we've downloaded the flight plan. The other thing that I might do with the flight plan is I might also drag this over here. I'm going to go over and get the actual flight plan itself. Here's the PDF I downloaded. So we can go and look through there. Oh, it looks like there's a little bit of weather here and there. Okay, so it might be a little bit bumpy coming in over Wyoming. Here's winds. So are we going to have some pretty strong winds? Not in Wyoming and Montana, but boy, they do start to pick up a little bit in Colorado. So we know a little bit about that. Here's our flight profile, another way to check your winds. Look on over here, and here's my first page. What I usually do is I grab the top 2 lines, which is essentially your flight schedule. This is just your flight schedule right here. And so I go, and there it is, and put it right in there. So now I have all of my information. You probably also noticed that I'll space it out a little bit. I'm not just being a neat freak here. One of the things is this is a lot of numbers. And one of the things is if you space it out, it makes it easier to find and see stuff. Now, I'm getting to a point where I need fewer and fewer flight notes. And so one of the things is I will leave this flight plan up on my desktop, and I just know where to go and look at stuff. So as you get better at this sort of thing, you can kind of go and write even less stuff down. This is going to be an hour and 19-minute flight. We're going 466 miles. There's my CI, my cost index. It's 11, and our cruise flight is flight level 370. How much fuel to put in the gate? Planned gate fuel right there. There is our gate fuel. Somebody was asking, one of the things that the modern flight management computers, particularly this one's going to ask you, is your reserve fuel. What's my reserve fuel? Well, there's 3 lines here. So this top line here, we need 6,870 pounds of fuel. That's just to get us from Billings to Denver. Below it are 3 lines here. Okay, we got 3 lines. FAR, 15 minutes, and COS. What's all this? Well, this is 30 minutes of extra flying time. This is in case you've got a hold. This is in case you have to do a missed approach. Whatever. So there's an extra 30 minutes. And then there's the 15 minutes. That's 15 extra minutes in case, oh my gosh, we have to go around again. Okay, and then COS, that's my alternate. So 2,000 pounds to get us from Denver to Colorado Springs. If you add up these 3 numbers, the bottom line on this style of flight plan that I'm using, REMF, remaining fuel, is basically your reserve fuel. Okay, so assuming everything goes smooth and according to plans, you should have 5,377 pounds of fuel in your tanks when you land. Okay, this does not include more taxi fuel, taxi in. So when you land, if you've got 5,377, you won the fuel game. Okay, how do you put that in? So it says for the fuel, it says 5377. So if it says 5377 here, so 5,377. What that translates into for the flight management computer is 5.3. So that's what you would put in for your remaining fuel, for your reserve fuel in the flight management computer. And from there, I mean, there's several other little rabbit holes that you can jump down, but right now, that's going to get you at a gate where you're not going to spawn on somebody. You've already chosen the runways, and the flight plan reflects it, that the controllers are using. Now, you might have to change your runway coming in depending upon where you're going and how the weather's changing, but that's easy to do. You've got a stack of charts you're all ready to go to. The last step in the process is to go and launch either vPilot or xPilot. vPilot, this is what we use for talking to Vatsim when we're in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So here's it. It's all ready to go. Let's go to Connect. I'm United Flight 441. If you forgot what that is, take a look up here. There's your flight number. Now this one is UA, and then it's UAL. There's a difference. Your flight number is the 2-letter identifier and your number. Your call sign is usually a 3-letter identifier and the number. So your call sign is what you're going to put in. So UAL 441, we are a type Boeing 737. Connect. We're on the network. We're on the network. And how about that? And if there was somebody else here at the airport, now that's a static airplane over there. One of the things I really like is for Vatsim flying, if I have an option of turning off static airplanes, I like to do that. You know, that just helps out. Because invariably, you know, ATC might assign me to a gate where there's a static airplane. That's not fun. So, you know, airport designers, give us an option to turn off static airplanes, please. So there we go. That's pretty good. What other rabbit holes can we do? Okay. One of the things that I like to suggest is if you're going to be in Microsoft Flight Simulator and you're going to be on Vatsim, turn off multiplayer. How do you do that? Okay, so click in here, hit Escape, and then we're going to go to General Options. And in General Options, we're going to go to Data. And we're going to go see where it says Multiplayer here, turn it off. Okay, that's just a little bit too much chaos for you. So what you would see is if you didn't do that, you would basically see everybody who's flying in multiplayer, and you would also see the Vatsim traffic, and that's just going to confuse you because you're going to have airplanes taxiing right through you, and that's no fun at all. And I think that is pretty much how it is that I do everything else. One thing to make sure you've done, come on up here to the little cloud and make sure that you've turned on live weather and real time. And there you go. You're ready for a Vatsim flight in Microsoft Flight Simulator in the new PMDG 737, which is an incredibly well simulated airplane, and you're set and ready to go. It doesn't get much better than that. So what about flying this whole flight? Well, I actually did a YouTube video of this flight a few days ago, and I made one mistake in that video. I did not turn the landing gear off. So when you do the landing gear goes up, after the landing gear goes up, you have to turn it off. That turns off the hydraulic pumps that control the landing gear going up and down. And Boeing, you do landing gear up and then off. I forgot to turn it off. But other than that, I think that video, the link is at the bottom of the description, and that should probably help you out. And there you go. This is how it is that I go and put together a flight on Vatsim so that I fly like a pro. And with a pro airplane like this, and I've got to say, I am, super duper impressed with this airplane. This airplane levels up Microsoft Flight Simulator like nothing else. So, and I'm not sponsored by PMDG or Microsoft Flight Simulator. Those are my opinions. And there you go. One thing that I always like to suggest that you do when you're flying along, make sure that your controllers, your joysticks and stuff, do the control checks. Please do that. I will never forget the time that I forgot to do that, and my USB connectors had a little bit of a nutty, and I found out about it when my throttles were forward and we were hurtling down the runway ready for takeoff, and it's sort of like, my joystick doesn't work. Help. What do you do on that one? Okay, well, what you do is you trim the airplane off the runway, and, but it was embarrassing. And there you go. That's how I do this thing. And I hope that maybe a little bit of that helps as you're doing your flight planning. Again, all of the links for the web resources that I've used are in the description below. If you have any questions or any comments, I read them all. I'm really new here on YouTube, so I have time to read them all and answer them. I might even do a video. One of the most important things that I do like to say, though, is this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. I'm not trying to make a statement there. This is simply what works for me, and the whole goal of this is to help you hop in your airplane and fly along with everybody else. Again, questions and comments, and also an invitation. Come on over to Twitch and fly with us. We fly pretty much Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu. They're all group flights. We're flying the wings off of this new airplane and having an absolute blast with that. So come on over to Twitch. As I mentioned, I am new here on YouTube, so any of the follows and subscriptions really help out too. If you'd like to show some support, I'm really new, so I'm not monetized on YouTube, but if you really want to be nice, you can come on over and subscribe to the channel over on Twitch, and that'll really help me out. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon again here on YouTube, and even sooner in the friendly skies over on Twitch. Thanks for watching.